You're here because something inside you whispers, you can be more. But the noise of the world, the pressure, the comparison, the chaos, it drowns that voice. The Stoics understood this thousands of years ago. They didn't chase perfection, they chased character. Marcus Aurelius, a Roman emperor, wrestled with doubt and distraction, just like we do. His solution: master the mind, control the self. This video will walk you through 8 Stoic strategies grounded in timeless wisdom to help you become your strongest, calmest, and clearest self. You'll learn not through loud motivation, but through deep, honest reflection. And if you feel this journey matters, consider subscribing. This channel is a quiet space for strong minds. Number 1, silence the noise. Hear your inner self. Again, you wake up and your mind is already crowded. Notifications, messages, headlines, trends. They rush in before you've even spoken a word. You scroll. Not out of intention, but habit. And before long, your thoughts aren't really your thoughts anymore. But deep down, you feel it. Something's off. You've lost touch with something quiet, something essential. That quiet voice inside you, the one that tells the truth, it's still there, but it can't be heard over the noise. The Stoics knew this feeling. They lived in a world full of chaos, power struggles, distractions, just like ours. And yet, they found stillness. Epictetus, once a slave who became a philosopher, taught this truth: no man is free who is not master of himself. He didn't mean mastering schedules or inboxes. He meant mastering the inner space, the space where your thoughts take shape. So how do you return to that? How do you hear yourself again? You begin by stepping back. Not forever, just for a moment each day. Imagine a muddy pond after a storm. The more you poke it, the cloudier it becomes. But when you leave it alone, the dirt settles, the water clears. Your mind is the same. The first step is silence. Not dramatic silence, not a retreat into the mountains, but the kind of silence you choose in a noisy room. It starts small: a walk without your phone, 5 minutes of sitting, just watching your breath, journaling a single question. What am I really feeling today? This isn't about escape, it's about return. Because what you return to is yourself, and what you'll notice is powerful. Without the noise, you begin to observe. You notice the thoughts that repeat, the fears that disguise themselves as urgency, the desires that don't belong to you, but to someone else's life. And in that observation comes freedom. You begin to see which thoughts serve you and which ones shackle you. You no longer react to every opinion, every trend, every flashing headline. Instead, you pause, you reflect, you choose. That's mastery. That's the kind of freedom Epictetus spoke of. Not the freedom to do whatever you want, but the freedom to become who you truly are beneath the noise. And yes, it will be uncomfortable at first. You might feel restless. Your mind may scream for distraction. That's normal. It's the sign you're doing something right, because in that discomfort, you're reclaiming your mind. You're remembering how to listen, not to the world, but to your own inner compass. And over time, this practice of silence becomes strength. Like an archer drawing a bow, your stillness becomes power, held in reserve. You no longer rush to explain yourself. You don't feel the need to prove your worth with noise. You sit in the room calm because you know who you are. It's not arrogance, it's clarity, and clarity is rare. In the age of noise, a calm mind is rebellion, but it's the rebellion that restores you. So start today, not with a perfect morning routine, not with an hour-long meditation. Start by turning down one voice that doesn't belong to you, and turning up the one that does. Sit with yourself. Write what you feel. Walk without headphones. Watch your thoughts like clouds passing in the sky. Let them drift. Let them go. And when the silence comes, don't fill it, feel it. Because in that space, you'll hear something. Something real, something ancient, something true. It's the sound of your unshakable self returning. So ask yourself now, when was the last time you heard your own thoughts? Clearly, number 2, live by principles, not preferences. You've likely felt this before. You say you'll stay calm, but then someone presses the wrong button, and you explode. You say you'll stay focused, but the moment discomfort creeps in, you're scrolling again. It's not because you're weak, it's because your actions are being pulled by your preferences. And preferences change like the wind. You prefer ease over effort, comfort over clarity, pleasure over purpose. But Stoicism asks something deeper of you, not to live by what you feel, but to live by what you believe. Seneca, a Stoic writer-advisor to emperors, said this: "If a man knows not which port he sails, no wind is favorable." In other words, if you don't know what matters most, the world will decide for you. So how do you change that? You begin by choosing your principles, not borrowed ones, not trendy ones, but the values you're willing to live by, even when it hurts. Because here's the truth. Life will test you. You'll be tempted. You'll be provoked. You'll be pulled in 10 directions. And in those moments, you won't have time to think through a perfect response. You'll only have your principles to stand on or fall from. Imagine a compass during a storm. The waves crash, the sky darkens. But the compass, it always points north. Your values are your compass. So what does this look like in practice? Let's say one of your principles is honesty, but then a lie would make things easier. Your mind races, but you remember you live by your code. You speak the truth, not because it's easy, but because it's you. Or maybe your principle is patience. Someone cuts you off, insults you. You feel the fire rise, but you breathe. Because patience isn't passive, it's powerful. You act not from emotion, but from integrity. This is the Stoic way. It's not about removing emotion. It's about placing character above impulse. You become the kind of person whose behavior doesn't depend on how they feel, but on who they are. That's strength. But make no mistake, this isn't glamorous. You won't get applause for it. No one may even notice, but you will know. And that knowing builds confidence, not the loud kind, the quiet, steady kind that doesn't shake when the world does. So how do you define your principles? Ask yourself, what do I admire in others that I wish I saw in myself? What quality would I want my children or friends to remember me for? What line would I never cross even if no one ever found out? Write it down, one word, one sentence, one code. Then live it daily, not perfectly, but deliberately. Over time, something incredible happens. You begin to trust yourself, not because everything goes your way, but because you no longer betray yourself when things don't. You stand taller, speak clearer, act slower, because your actions are no longer just reactions. They're expressions of who you've chosen to become. And when others meet you, they feel it. Not your resume, not your image, but your integrity. That's what Stoicism builds. A man or woman who is the same in peace or pressure, the same when praised or punished, steady in their center, not perfect, but anchored. So let me ask you this, what's the one principle you'd never betray, even under pressure? Because that's not just a trait, it's your true self in action. Number 3, master the mind. Your inner citadel. Some days, it feels like the world controls you. One comment ruins your mood. One piece of news steals your peace. One mistake, and your whole day unravels. But what if the world didn't have that kind of power over you? What if your peace couldn't be taken? Marcus Aurelius, the Stoic emperor, held immense power. Yet he knew true control wasn't about armies or wealth. It was about the mind. He wrote in his meditations, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." That's the foundation of Stoic thought. You can't control everything that happens, but you can control how you respond. And the space between stimulus and response, that's where your strength is born. Marcus called it the Inner Citadel, a fortress not made of stone but of self-awareness. No matter what chaos surrounded him, betrayal, war, death, he turned inward because he knew no one can invade a mind that is disciplined. So how do you build your own inner citadel? It starts with distinction. The moment something upsets you, pause and ask, is this within my control? Or not? If it is, act. With clarity, with intention, with courage. If it isn't, release it. Not with indifference, but with wisdom. Imagine your mind as a great hall filled with windows. Every voice outside is trying to get in. You can't stop the wind from blowing, but you can choose which windows to shut. You don't need to react to every thought, every opinion, every outcome. You become the gatekeeper of your own mind. Modern life doesn't teach this. We're told to react, to scroll, to argue, to panic. But you can choose stillness. You can choose mastery. And that mastery begins with awareness. You notice your thoughts without becoming them. You witness your emotions without being ruled by them. You say, yes, I feel anger, but I am not anger. Yes, I feel fear, but I am not fear. That's what it means to build the citadel. Each time you resist the urge to lash out. Each time you pause instead of panic. Each time you respond with reason instead of reaction. You lay another stone in the walls of your inner fortress, and it grows stronger, so strong, that even if the world crumbles around you, you remain whole. This isn't about cold detachment. It's about warm control. It's about knowing where your real power lies. And the beauty is, you don't need perfect circumstances to build it. You just need presence. You need reflection. You need a moment of choice. You can start now. The next time something triggers you, ask, is this worth letting into my citadel? And if not, let it pass. Breathe. Step back. Return to yourself, because in that pause, you are not passive. You are powerful. You are proving that nothing and no one can rule you without permission. Not their anger, not their opinion, not their chaos. You become unshakable. So I'll ask you this. If someone can ruin your day with just a word who's really in control, the answer may sting, but it's also the beginning of your freedom. Number 4, turn pain into power. Pain is part of life. Loss, failure, betrayal. They visit all of us. No one escapes. And when they come, they sting. They leave scars, memories, echoes. But Stoicism teaches something radical. That pain isn't your enemy, it's your teacher. Epictetus, who lived most of his life in chains, said difficulties are things that show a person what they are. Read that again. Pain doesn't just hurt, it reveals. It strips away comfort and shows you what's real. In that moment, when things fall apart, you meet yourself. Not the version that performs, not the version that pleases, but the version that endures. Modern life says avoid pain, numb it, distract from it, escape it. But Stoicism says face it, look it in the eye, learn from it. Because if you don't face it, you carry it. It stays buried, shaping your choices, your fears, your future silently. But when you face it, something beautiful happens. You begin to turn it into power, not loud, explosive power, but quiet, grounded strength. Like steel forged in fire, like a tree whose roots grow deeper after every storm. Every hardship you survive makes you wiser. Every betrayal makes you more discerning. Every failure makes you more humble, more resilient. This is not about pretending everything is okay. It's about transforming what's broken into something stronger. Let's be clear, pain doesn't make you stronger by itself. It's what you do with it that matters. You can choose bitterness or you can choose growth. You can close yourself off, or you can open with clarity and caution. You can remain a victim, or you can become a student of your own suffering. Here's how. Start by writing down the hardest moment of your life. What did it take from you, but also, what did it teach you? You'll find something surprising within every moment of pain. There was a seed, a truth, a turning point. Maybe you learned to stand up for yourself. Maybe you learned who your real friends were. Maybe you realized your strength not in victory, but in survival. That insight, that's your fuel, and it's not just for you. The strength you gain from your pain, it becomes a light for others. Someone else struggling, someone else drowning might look at you and say, if they got through it, maybe I can too. You become proof, not of perfection, but of transformation. Think of the lotus flower. It blooms, only in the mud, not despite the darkness, but because of it. You too can bloom right where it hurts, not by denying it, but by digging into it, by asking, what is this pain trying to teach me? Because every moment of discomfort is an invitation, an opening, a doorway to a stronger, deeper self. You're not meant to be untouched by life. You're meant to grow through it. And the scars you carry, they're not signs of weakness. They're signs that you fought and healed. Let the world see them. Let yourself see them. They are part of you, but they don't define you. What defines you is how you respond. So ask yourself, what if your greatest wound became your greatest wisdom? Would you still run from it, or would you face it and rise? Because pain may visit, but it doesn't have to stay. And you were never meant to stay broken. You were meant to become. Number 5, detach from outcomes. Focus on effort. You try, you plan, you hope. And yet, things don't always go your way. You do everything right, and still the result disappoints. You put in the work and no one notices. You chase success and it slips through your fingers. That's when frustration creeps in. Doubt follows, then shame. But what if? The result was never yours to control. What if your true power, was in the effort, not the outcome? Marcus Aurelius reminds us, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength. You can't control the result. You can't control how others respond. You can't control if the world rewards your work, but you can always control how you show up. That's the essence of Stoicism. Not apathy, but agency. It's the shift from chasing recognition to choosing right action regardless of applause. Imagine a farmer planting seeds. He prepares the soil, he waters, he waits. But the rain, the sun, the harvest, those aren't in his hands. What is in his hands is the work. That's you. You write the book even if no one reads it. You practice the skill even if no one sees it. You speak the truth even if no one claps. Because the value is in the doing, not the response. This mindset is freedom. When you attach to outcomes, you become their prisoner. You rise and fall with every result. Every yes makes you feel worthy. Every no makes you question yourself. But when you detach from outcome and focus on effort, you reclaim your peace. You become unshakable. It doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you start caring about what actually matters, your discipline, your values, your consistency. That's where growth happens. That's where confidence is built quietly from the inside. So how do you live this? Start each task with a simple intention. I am here to do my part. You show up, you give your best, and then you release it. Like an archer pulling back the buoy, you focus on the aim, the breath, the posture, and then you let go. Where the arrow lands is not yours to control. This mindset transforms how you work. You no longer measure success by likes, by dollars, by praise. You measure it by integrity, by the quiet feeling of knowing you showed up fully. And ironically, when you stop chasing outcomes, they often start to arrive. Why? Because people are drawn to those who act from conviction, not desperation. To those who build from love, not lack. To those who are rooted, not rattled. This doesn't make you passive, it makes you powerful. Because now, you no longer fold when the result isn't perfect. You no longer quit when things take longer. You keep going because you're anchored in action, not reward. Think about the people you admire most. Were they obsessed with outcome, or were they faithful to the process through failure, through silence, through doubt? They didn't just hope, they showed up. So now it's your turn. Let go of trying to control every outcome. Let go of the illusion that your worth is tied to what happens next, and return to what's real. Your work, your presence, your choices. That's all you ever had, and it's more than enough. So ask yourself now, what could you create if you stopped fearing the outcome? The answer might just be the best version of you. Number 6, embrace voluntary discomfort. You crave ease, warm showers, soft beds, fast food, entertainment at your fingertips. Comfort surrounds you. But here's the paradox. The more comfort you chase, the weaker you feel inside. Because growth never happens in the comfort zone. And the Stoics knew this long before science caught up. Seneca, one of Rome's richest men, practiced voluntary poverty. He would sleep on the ground, wear rough clothes, eat the simplest food. Why? To remind himself that comfort is a choice, not a requirement, and that he could endure far more than he thought. He wrote, "Set aside a certain number of days during which you shall be content with the scantiest and cheapest fare. And ask yourself, is this the condition I feared?" He wasn't trying to punish himself. He was training his mind for life. Because when you choose discomfort, life's discomforts don't break you, they build you. Think of a blade. It only becomes sharp through friction. It only gains its edge by grinding. You too are forged through resistance. But modern life tells you the opposite. Make things easier. Take the shortcut. Hack your way around effort. And slowly, your resilience erodes. You lose your edge. You become dependent on comfort and afraid of life without it. But there's another way, a Stoic way. You can choose voluntary discomfort and regain your strength. Start small. Take a cold shower. Wake up earlier than you want. Fast for half a day. Walk instead of drive. Say no when it's easier to say yes. Each act of chosen discomfort sharpens you, not because it's heroic, but because it reminds you you are stronger than you think. You learned that hunger won't kill you. Silence won't break you. Simplicity won't steal your joy. You realize that fear of discomfort was worse than the discomfort itself. And this changes everything. Because now, when life does throw you into discomfort, you're ready. You've been there before. You're familiar with the feeling. So you don't flinch. You don't fall apart. You endure. And more than that, you thrive. You move through fear, not away from it. You choose effort even when no one's watching. You stop asking what feels good right now and start asking, what will make me stronger? That mindset changes your destiny. Because now you're not ruled by craving. You're ruled by choice. You're not a slave to comfort. You're the master of challenge. And people feel that. Your energy shifts. You become the one who doesn't panic under pressure. The one who doesn't crumble at the first sign of hardship. Why? Because you've trained for it. So let's make this practical. This week, pick one small thing to do that makes you uncomfortable, not unsafe. Just uncomfortable. Maybe it's waking up before the sun. Maybe it's saying the hard truth. Maybe it's sitting with silence instead of scrolling. Whatever it is, do it on purpose. Do it with presence. And when your mind screams, "Why are we doing this?" you answer, to remember who's in control. That's Stoicism in action, not in theory, not in quotes, but in real life, in your body, in your habits, in your breath. Because you don't become your best self by avoiding struggle. You become your best self by walking straight through it. So ask yourself now, what have you been avoiding that could actually make you stronger? You already know the answer. Now, face it. Number 7, daily practice, not occasional insight. You've read the quotes, you've watched the videos, you've had moments of clarity, bursts of motivation, sparks of insight, and yet things still slip. You still react. You still fall back into old habits. Why? Because wisdom doesn't stick through inspiration alone. It sticks through repetition. The Stoics didn't just talk about philosophy. They practiced it every day. Not when it was convenient, not when they felt like it, but daily, like breathing, like brushing their teeth. Marcus Aurelius wrote his meditations not for us, but for himself. It was his daily practice, his reminder, his ritual. He understood that the mind forgets, that character decays without maintenance, and so must you. Insight is just the spark. Practice is what turns it into fire. You don't become calm by reading about calm. You become calm by choosing calm over and over again. That's what Stoicism demands. Not perfection, but consistency. Imagine a tree. You don't pour a gallon of water once a month and expect it to thrive. You give it a little every single day. The same is true for your mindset. So let's make it real. Let's create a Stoic daily practice. Start your mornings with reflection, even just 3 minutes. Ask, what emotion will I watch for today? What virtue will I strengthen today? What challenge will I meet with grace? Write it down. Then go live it. And in the evening, return to yourself. Ask, what did I do well today? What did I avoid facing? What can I improve tomorrow? This simple rhythm act always everything. It keeps you anchored. It keeps you accountable. It keeps you honest. Over time, this daily practice becomes your compass. You stop drifting. You stop chasing every feeling, every fear. You begin to act from a deeper place, from clarity, from commitment. And this doesn't have to be complicated. You don't need the perfect journal. You don't need a candlelit room or a 10-step ritual. You just need intention. Some people meditate, some walk in silence, some write, some speak their thoughts out loud. Whatever your method, make it yours. Make it daily. And yes, you will miss days. You will forget. You will feel like skipping. That's okay. The key is always to return, not with shame, but with strength. Because every time you return to the practice, you return to yourself. This daily rhythm doesn't just help you manage emotions. It builds identity. You become the kind of person who reflects, who observes, who chooses rather than reacts. And that identity changes how you move through the world. You walk into conflict with calm. You handle setbacks with perspective. You face temptation with discipline. Not because you're superhuman, but because you've trained. One day at a time, one moment at a time. The greatest strength doesn't come from grand decisions. It comes from small choices repeated consistently. So what happens when you skip this practice? You drift. You forget who you are. You let life push you instead of standing firm. That's not failure, that's feedback. It's your mind saying return, reflect, begin again, and you can. Any day, any moment, right now. So let me ask you this. What would change if you practiced your values daily, not just when it was easy? You already know the answer. It's written inside you. Now, make it real. Number 8, serve a purpose greater than yourself. You want to grow. You want to be calm, resilient, strong. But for what? Just to feel better? Just to be admired? Or is there something more? The Stoics believed that personal excellence was not just for self-fulfillment. It was for service, for others, for the world. Marcus Aurelius, ruling the vast Roman Empire, wrote, "What brings no benefit to the hive brings none to the bee." In other words, you're not complete until you become useful. Modern life says the opposite. Put yourself first, protect your peace, chase your dreams. And yes, Boundaries matter. Rest matters. Your healing matters. But what happens when you get stronger, calmer, wiser, and stop there? You become a fortress with no bridge, a light hidden under a basket. And the Stoics would ask, what good is that strength if it doesn't help anyone else? Your best self isn't just peaceful, it's purposeful, not loud, not self-righteous, but quietly, consistently helpful. And this doesn't mean you have to save the world. It means you show up where you are, fully, with presence, with principle. You hold the door for someone. You listen without judgment. You mentor someone struggling. You raise a child with care. You bring integrity to your work, even if no one's watching. These small acts ripple outward, like a single candle lighting another. You lose nothing, but the world gains more light. And here's the paradox. When you shift your focus from self to service, your life becomes richer. Because meaning doesn't come from asking, what do I get? It comes from asking, what do I give you? Begin to carry yourself differently, not with arrogance, but with quiet dignity, because you're no longer just trying to be someone. You're trying to do something that matters. And when life gets hard, that purpose pulls you forward. You don't crumble under pressure because it's not just about you anymore. You don't fold in silence because someone else needs your voice. You don't quit when it's hard because someone out there is watching and learning from how you rise. So, what's your deeper purpose? It doesn't have to be grand. It just has to be true. Maybe it's to raise a kind family. Maybe it's to create something that heals. Maybe it's to serve your community, your students, your clients with integrity. Whatever it is, let that purpose shape you. Let it push you to grow. Let it humble you when ego rises. Let it comfort you when doubt creeps in. Because the moment your strength serves others, it becomes real. It becomes legacy, impact, contribution. You become someone others can lean on, not because you're perfect, but because you're present. Someone who has wrestled with life, found peace, and now offers it quietly to those still fighting. So ask yourself, who benefits? When you become your best self, let that answer guide you. Let it be the reason you keep going. Let it be the reason you rise, even when no one's watching. Because your life isn't just about what you gain, it's about what you give back. And that the Stoics believed is the highest form of strength. The journey is within final reflection. You've walked through silence, discipline, and resilience, service. You've seen how Stoicism isn't just ancient words. It's a path, a practice, a way to live with intention. And now, you face a quiet choice, not a dramatic transformation, not an overnight breakthrough, but a steady return to who you already are. Because becoming the best version of you isn't about adding more. It's about uncovering what's been there all along. Your strength, your clarity, your calm, your courage. They're not gifts waiting in the future. They're muscles waiting to be used. And if you don't use them, they wither. You drift. You forget what matters. You fall into noise, distraction, regret. That's the gap. The distance between who you are today and who you could be if you practiced. Not occasionally, but daily. Not perfectly, but intentionally. So now, you've seen the tools, you've heard the wisdom, you've felt the truth that the only question left is, will you return to it tomorrow? Will you pause before you react? Will you write before you forget? Will you choose effort over outcome? Will you serve when it's easier to stay silent? Because your best self isn't found in motivation. It's found in moments, tiny, quiet moments, where you say, I choose character, I choose clarity, I choose the path again. If this journey meant something to you, stay close, subscribe, not for me, but for you, to remind yourself, to stay on the path, to keep your mind and your spirit sharp. And if you forget, don't worry. The Stoics would say, that's the perfect time to begin again.